meeting of our presidency. This is the opening session of 10 sessions, and apologies for starting late, but we will make sure that we catch up with the time. The media will be here for the opening session, and then they will leave, so don't worry, they won't be here for the rest of the sessions. I know how Sherpas feel about this, the need to have a safe space to speak. But from my side, again, just to warmly welcome all of you to South Africa, to Sun City, and to the Northwest Province. Before I get into the meat of the things, there's a few announcements that I think we need to make. And it's been a season of changes. So on the Troika side, we've got a new Sherpa for Brazil, Mr. Philip Fox. Welcome, Philip. Thanks. Maurizio has stepped down as the G20 Sherpa, mostly because his hands is also very full with the COP and BRICS and many other things. But Philip, welcome, and we've already engaged last night, and I think the support would be the same as we got from Maurizio. We've also had the previous Sherpa, Amitabh, has also stepped down as the Sherpa for India, and we've got the ambassador, will step in his place until they announce a new Sherpa from India, so welcome. Australia, we did have a farewell for our colleague, but the new Sherpa is here with us, Ms. Lisa Elliston. Welcome. We've also had a good discussion. And from China, we've also got Mr. Wang Yi, who's now the new Sous Sherpa, and welcome. We've also got a new Sous Sherpa for the African Union, Ms. Sarah Silva. And then for the UK, Jonathan Black has also stepped down, and we have Mr. Michael Ellum, who will be the new Sherpa. Welcome. I've not mentioned Germany, but we've also got a new Sherpa for Brazil, and he is unfortunately not here with us today, but Ulrich is here. So just a warm welcome to all the Sherpas and Sous Sherpas and those standing in for them. So so the third meeting will continue enhancing our theme of solidarity, equality, and sustainability. I've introduced the new Sherpa from Brazil, but we've had some good engagement as a Troika over the last few months. Unfortunately, the US, a Troika member, has not been able to join us this time, but the previous, Maurizio and myself did meet with the US Sherpa once in person and twice online, and we've had some good discussions. In terms of the work and the progress, I'm delighted to report that our collective efforts are yielding significant progress. Out of 132 planned meetings, we've now successfully hosted 70. Most of the working groups have completed their third sessions, and many have already engaged in the nitty-gritty of negotiating what they would like to see in their ministerial declarations for the year. And I'm sure you've gotten report backs from your leads in the working groups on these issues. Our discussions over the next few days are going to be important. The discussions here is going to provide us with the opportunity to refine our objectives. We'll get report backs from some of the working groups and task teams, and we'll look at how they align with the priorities we've set out, and to ensure that we do so reflect our own collective aspirations. We have the time ahead of us to identify innovative approaches and also to delve into the under-addressed issues of global importance, thereby genuinely enhancing the G20's impact and its contribution to addressing emerging global challenges. We will hope that we can have in this room, outside of the room, to start building an early consensus. Early and broad consultation is important for a strong and actionable ministerial and leaders' declarations. I know colleagues are going to take the floor and tell us to be short in the leaders' declaration. We'll discuss that later in the sessions about what our ideas are in terms of a leaders' declaration. It is our responsibility collectively as Sherpas to resolve the challenges that are being presented to us, whether it's in the working groups or the task teams, or even the new emerging challenges, and there are many new emerging challenges. I do think that we should work to ensure that none of our working groups fail to reach consensus. So during session 1, we will reflect on the G20's contribution to the global development agenda and how we can foster equitable global governance. Part of that discussion would underscore the fact that from our perspective, we need to recognize that we cannot succeed on our own or unilaterally, and that our collective challenges do require a strong multilateralism. So a pragmatic assessment of the current global landscape and the identification of practical solutions is going to be important. The unique experiences, knowledge, and perspectives brought by all of you are invaluable for a richer understanding of the problems and the development of comprehensive solutions to those problems. The meeting will also provide an opportunity for Sherpas to have a discussion on, dare I say it, the geopolitical issues as part of the agenda, and I think, we've always shied away from geopolitical issues, but given the events not only of the last 2 years, but particularly of the last month, we're going to have some discussion on that in a measured but robust way. We do recognize, though, that the G20 is a forum for international economic cooperation, and we recognize that this should be the focus, but the ongoing conflicts worldwide, as we've pointed out before, are definitely now even more detrimental to not just peace and security, but economic development and the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals. So we will discuss it, but we will also make sure it doesn't hold us back, but the discussion is important. So as agreed during the very first Sherpa meeting, there's a working method for managing the geopolitical issues. And just to remind all of us, the manner in which we will address this is that only the Sherpas, the ministers of foreign affairs, and then the leaders ultimately will engage on the geopolitical issues. We're following from the example set by Brazil. We want the working groups and the task teams to focus on the substantive issues they need to deal with without being held back by the geopolitical issues. So we will have to take the lead on this as the Sherpas, so we can guide the discussions that our foreign ministers will have, who in turn will also then guide the leaders on the geopolitical issues. So we've got to take the responsibility on that. The working groups will focus on the technical issues, and we will get some report backs from them today on how that is going. We will, to some extent, provide some guidance to the working groups following this meeting on how to deal with the working groups on the geopolitical issues. We'll have a session later on our approach on the geopolitical issues, and we can go into a lot more detail on that, but suffice to say that it will be centered on the principles we've agreed on in India, the principles that we've agreed on in Brazil, which is centered on the UN Charter, respect for international law, and the fact that we must all be held equally accountable for this as we build a more peaceful world. So colleagues, you will also recall that the presidency introduced the G20 at 20, a reflection on key achievements and the way forward initiative. This was a significant discussion point during the second Sherpa meeting that we held in April, where the G20 at 20 review roadmap was formally presented. The roadmap outlines a high-level qualitative assessment of the G20's progress against its key commitments and targets since its inception in 2008. So we will have a session on that as well. And also thank you for all the countries who've participated in the process. And also we've seen the recommendations for people to participate on the ongoing platforms on the G20 at 20 coming forward. So thank you for that. We will also, during this meeting, hold a joint session with the G20 engagement groups, again following on from the very important initiative started by Brazil. We found it useful where the engagement groups presented some of the key issues that they've discussed and felt would be important for us as Sherpas to reflect on and perhaps even advise our leaders that these are the issues that are emerging from the engagement groups. We will also be holding a social summit as Brazil had towards, just before the Leaders Summit. And hopefully the engagement groups and the work that they've done will contribute to a very successful social summit. We will, as I've indicated earlier, have an outline, not in writing, but we will discuss it, just the approach to the G20 Johannesburg Leaders Declaration, as it will be called. As Sherpas, it is our responsibility in shaping this declaration. We draft this declaration, and we have to ensure that we shape it in a way that builds on from the last few years. And from our perspective, what we would like to see is the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals and other common challenges. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development is at a crucial juncture, and the G20's collective influence and resources are more vital than ever to get them back on track. The Leaders' Declaration should reinforce the commitment to, and I want to quote from our documents, strong, sustainable, balanced, and inclusive growth as a fundamental driver for the success of the SDGs, with a specific focus on reducing inequalities. Again, as Sherpas, we must ensure that the declaration outlines concrete and collective actions. We want the declaration to have measurable targets where possible, and not only aspirational statements. The aspirational statements are important, but as I've pointed out and our leaders have pointed out, really good work has been done on the SDGs since Italy, since the meeting in Rome, and subsequently Indonesia, Brazil, and also India. So we need to look at how do we translate some of those agreements into actionable and measurable objectives. The optimal participation from all delegations is important, coupled with, we found that the working groups, the task teams have received overwhelming support, and we want to thank all of you for that. The importance of this is that G20 is consensus-based. It's based on discussion, on dialogue, and it's only through that dialogue where we can build better understanding, and better understanding can lead to agreements. And this is the approach that we've taken thus far, and we will continue to take. The concrete proposals and recommendations we receive from all your delegations are invaluable. They have contributed towards strengthening our presidency and thereby ensuring that our final outcome will be robust, but importantly inclusive, and will reflect the perspectives from all of us. Okay. So this level of engagement we've experienced augurs well for, from our perspective, achieving meaningful progress on the priorities our president has set out. Just to remind you, some of them are strengthening disaster resilience and response, ensuring debt sustainability for low-income countries, mobilizing finance for a just energy transition, and harnessing critical minerals for inclusive growth and sustainable development. So over the next 3 days, we are confident that these deliberations will be fruitful and that we'll continue to build on the progress that we've made thus far in the working groups, the engagement groups, and the task forces. So that is it for the opening remarks. Thank you and welcome to Sun City. I hope you will find the time to take walks. It's a bit too cold to go swim, but welcome to this part of South Africa. I know some of you came in very late, so I'm sure you'll make use of the caffeine to wake up. So welcome, and that is going to be the end of the participation of the media for now. Thank you, colleagues. While the media exits, just the format for, you'll notice that you don't have flags in front of you to raise your flag. So the system will recognize your request to speak as soon as you press the button. That will give me a list of people,